Mingalaba, welcome to the Webishop 2022 series on nurturing ourselves as peace builders. The United Board organized these virtual workshops or Webishops in response to Myanmar educators' request for more tools in peace education. They have realized that doing whole person education also means being agents of peace in their classrooms and communities. Each video has been edited for brevity and is made available for educators who wish to integrate peace education in their teaching. Once again, welcome.
So hello, everybody. I think it's been a very challenging week in Myanmar, so I'm very happy to see all of you. I wanted to share with you a poem I wrote this week, precisely after the execution. Some of you may have read it already, and we'll email it to you also because I translated it into Burmese. But it says, this is actually a tribute. Jimmy was also a friend of mine from many years ago, from 2011, 2012. So we traveled together in the Philippines, in Hope's country. He had been there to see the democracy struggle there. He'd been to the Mindanao to look at the way that peace had been built with the Muslims. So he was a very committed person, even after he came out of prison the first time. So this was something I wrote for him just to kick us off today. So may your courage not be in vain. May your commitment stir us to rise. May the brutality of your final hours be our rallying cry. This was a final act in your lives of struggle and commitment to the greatest of all values: freedom, truth, humanity, dignity, the belief that we can live together in peace and diversity. You and thousands like you who refuse to accept evil as the status quo. Those thousands like you who brave death to reject injustice. Let us remember your heartfelt smiles and your tireless capacity to serve your people. Let us honor you now with the resolve, enough is enough. Depravity has no place in the 21st century. Leadership is for those who practice your authenticity, compassion, and wisdom. Execution, incarceration on the battlefield or in everyday homes cannot be tolerated. Love, light, and hope will always prevail. We salute you, we thank you, we carry forward your dream. Rest in power, rest in peace. And I'll send it to you. Maybe it's useful for you to share with some friends to give some encouragement right now. I know that actually the whole world was shocked, and I wanted to share with you, some of you will have read the statement of the ASEAN chair, Prime Minister Hun Sen from Cambodia, where I live. And everybody in Cambodia was quite amazed that Hun Sen had really come with a strong statement. Even some human rights activists and peace people in Cambodia were saying, wow, thank you, Myanmar. You made Cambodian Prime Minister actually like a kind of human rights activist. So you helped him to think what is really unacceptable in humanity. So it's something very powerful. And I think he was really shocked because he had personally written to Ming online saying, please don't do this. And secondly, that people from all around the world got very focused this week on Myanmar. And I know some of you have been frustrated that Ukraine and Afghanistan and other places in the world have taken the focus away from what's happening. And this week I have been in Canberra. That's why I'm looking like a grown-up in my suit jacket, but also because I wanted to be special for today because it's our last time together. But I was amazed that people in Canberra around Australian policy were really clear now that we have to really start to do more for Myanmar. So it's been a difficult week, but I think also a week where the sacrifices that you are all making help people to remember how important it is to do something. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you for sharing all of your reflections. And you are all so resilient because week after week you show up, you reflect, you think, you try to work out what you can do. So I wanted to go back to last week's conversation. We talked about those criteria for effectiveness, remembering they could also be called building blocks for peace. I hope you had a chance maybe to read a bit more about them in the manual that we sent you. But on top of the building blocks of peace, or the criteria for effectiveness, there are 4 very important questions, and I want to share them with you, and I want us to actually try and use them today. So just a reminder, wait, let me show you this again properly. Technology, here we go. Just a reminder from last week that criteria for effectiveness is not about your project or your program. So it's not about evaluating how well was your training, how well was your teaching, how good is your class, how good is your curriculum. It's not evaluating that. It's evaluating how much has your contribution been towards the greater peace or the greater change that you're working for. So when you evaluate your project, it's a little bit like maybe the form that Connie and Anna send you. It's a little bit like the reflection that you do with AA on Wednesday. It's like, how is this going? Did you understand? Is it helpful? But peace effectiveness is evaluating how well we're doing towards the overall situation. Remembering that, you know, none of us can do this by ourselves. So each of us are doing our part, but we need to evaluate how much is our part contributing to the whole. So just to keep that in mind. And you'll remember we talked about changing political institutions that drive the conflict. We talked about the momentum of people and communities for peace. We talked about people resisting violence and refusing to participate in it. We talked about increasing people's security and their sense of security. So not just their physical security, but also, do they have food? Do they have health? Do they feel safe in their life? Can they have livelihood? Can they be sure that they have all of the things that they need, protection and so on? And lastly, improving the intergroup relationships between religious group, ethnic group, gender groups, all kinds of groups. And I think even we've been talking a lot in the last few weeks about the interconnection between even political groups within your own classroom. Is, can you help build their relationship even if they have political differences? And can you help them in your classroom to not use violence, but to really use dialogue? That's a really powerful way to build the connection in your classroom. So this week, we're going to add some complexity to this. We want to ask 4 questions. When we're making change, are we doing it fast enough? Fast enough doesn't mean, ooh, I can run around crazy, crazy, crazy. Fast enough means, is it in time? Have we done enough in time for things to change? So I remember straight after the coup, a lot of people wanted to have Aung San Suu Kyi and Ming Online have a conversation. And I think that some countries should have done that quicker. They were very slow to move. They should have tried to very quickly turn the coup around, because within the first week, maybe possible, but by now, more difficult. So we really have to think, are we in time? Are we doing the work that we do fast enough? We can't, sometimes I hear people say, you know, if we do peace education, it will take 50 years for change because the next generation will have to be different to us and da, da, da. But I can't think that that's acceptable. 50 years is too long to wait for peace, that people cannot wait in the jungle, in their IDP camp, in their refugee status, in the fear that you're all living in. So we need to think how to be effective quicker, how to make the impact faster. The second question is, can your efforts be sustained? So how will you continue on? How will you teach other teachers to do what you're doing? How will you help your university curriculum or your school curriculum become established and part of the system? So if you're going to teach peace into the future, it's not enough that just you teach peace. Actually, we need to teach peace as part of a structure and a system, for it to go into curriculum, for it to be taught in history class, for it to be part of pedagogy training. And that way it will be sustainable, that people will continue to learn about peace. Similarly, if we're really working to change institutions, one sustainable way is to change the law so that the law continues. So actually, sustainability of our efforts is really important. And sometimes that means, you know, we rely on international NGOs to support us and they give us budget and da-da-da. But we also have to generate our own energy, our own income, our own ways of being able to do the work. The third one is, are we working, is our effort big enough? So it's great that we are a small group here and that we are very committed and you're helping one another and you have support, United Board, da-da-da. But actually, do we need to make it more than this? In your own university, with your friends, with your own networks, can you expand the effort to become bigger? And big enough is not just the number, it's also the aspiration. So it's also to think, was my vision big enough? I was thinking that I would just change my class, but could I also change my school? Could I also change my university? I was thinking how to change my lesson, but could I also change the curriculum? So the question is really, are we thinking as big as we can about the change that we want? Sometimes the obstacle to big enough is our own confidence or our own sense of certainty. But actually those things, when we're making change, need to be put aside, our ego, our fears, our anxieties, because we want to see a different world that we live in. And the last one, if you remember when we talked about key people and more people, I told you that we have to link the efforts together. It's not good enough that just the education people talk about peace, but we don't have politicians talking about peace. We don't have health officials talking about peace. We don't have the military talking about peace, how to make peace negotiations, etc. So have we linked our work closely enough to others? And in some way, that's what you're doing also here. You're not just learning in this class, you're also learning to trust each other. You're finding out who else can you work with. When you're in a small group, you're finding out, oh, I know you, actually, I can work with you. Yes, I see your point, I can trust you. So have we built linkages enough, intentional linkages, that we can make our work stronger? So these are hard questions. They look small questions, but they're actually really hard questions. And I want to, some of you might have seen this framework before, but it's a kind of reminder to us that there are some things inside our control that we really have control over. So how you, exactly as George also said, is how we behave, how we look, how our attitude is, how we keep our energy, how we look after ourselves, how we are organizing our life right now within our control. And then there are things that we can influence. So I think you also mentioned that, a few of you, that you can deal with your family, you can deal with your friends, your colleagues, people that you trust. You can deal with your home environment. And then there are things that you cannot control and you can't influence them. So like COVID pandemic, most of us can't stop COVID pandemic, but how we respond to it, how we deal with ourselves, We cannot stop the coup. Coup is beyond us. But it doesn't mean that we can't be doing peace building in ourselves, as you said, Santun, very beautifully, that yes, I can deal with myself, my heart, my energy, my attitude, but you can also deal with those around you, those who you feel confident with. And part of our goal is always to expand these circles, to make them bigger and bigger. So you feel safer when you have more control over the things in your life, in the work that you can do. You feel better or more powerful when you can influence things. So in the situation you're in right now, these things become smaller. So what we are all trying to do is make them bigger, actually, is you are trying to push back a little bit, not burning down Naypyidaw, not taking up guns. Some people are doing, but for you, how can you just a little bit expand every day, little tiny bit? That will make you feel like you have more leverage, more assurance. So even coming to this workshop is expanding your influence, because you now have many friends in this room that you know you can talk to. You have many colleagues who have already gone through same experience in these discussions together. So you already expanded your influence. And so I hope this little framework is helpful to you. Some of you will know the Karen football player. His name is KWAR, and he later became a reggae singer. And so he is a footballer and a singer. So he is not related to peace at all. And yet he can use his skills in order to expand his influence, and he can share his influence. Okay, so I think all of you had the same message already, but now you can see KWAR. He is, we know, in prison right now, but we already had a report that KWAR was continuing to share his message even in the prison with his fellow prisoners and the prison guards. So he never give up. His journey is continue. So I hope he can inspire you. Maybe you also have some reflection after watching. And I am going to thank all of you for being extraordinary leaders in your field, in your homes, in your communities, and most of all in your classrooms. And thank you for trusting me and for being willing to have this special community together. And I'm sure we're going to meet again. And please stay in touch, message me anytime, and power to each of you. I know how difficult it is, but also how real change is coming, and it's coming soon, I'm sure. So let me pass to Wei Ching, who's going to draw us to a close.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to Emma particularly for taking us through a journey of contemplation and reflection, looking out as well as inside ourselves. The meaning of peace cannot be understood only intellectually. I think we all learned that through this journey. But a seed of peace must be planted inside each of us so that we can see the lights in the darkness. In the following, I want to share pictures from a Taiwanese artist I love. I think that's one of the methodology of Emma that I really appreciate. So I found some pictures I love, and the message I found encouraging throughout this journey, and share it with Emma and all of you. So we gathered for these workshops because we all care about our people, colleagues, students, and families. Recently, we saw members of our communities shattered, people crying for help, children living under unprecedented fear, and a peaceful future seems blurred and far. And I'm sure we all have asked the question. In fact, I just heard the question asked, what is the future of our people? When will it be peaceful and livable again? We have swallowed so many frustrations and anger. They generated hurts deep inside until we felt almost totally lost. We are caught in places where we do not know anymore. We feel like bumping into a tree everywhere we go. There were moments we lost confidence in ourselves. We lost our beloved jobs as educators, saw our loved ones suffer, and felt lonely and helpless. We were surrounded by despair. However, even though we cannot see it even on the far end, we must believe that a better future must be there. It cannot be otherwise. I'm not saying it lightly or trying only to cheer you up. I myself am trapped as much as you do, maybe not less visibly violent, with the deteriorating freedom in Hong Kong. I also lost former colleagues, students, and friends to the police state, we called it. They were put into prison for championing rights that we used to enjoy, such as freedom of speech and demonstration. Witnessing increasing political violence and corruption every day here in Hong Kong, I have to tell myself that a better future must be there. It could be far away, but surely exists. So let's try our best to look up, not down. I learned this phrase by accident via an animation about volleyball matches. When the losing team fought so hard and was still behind, they were discouraged and their heads were down, looking at the floor. And the coach shouted to them from the side that volleyball is a game played in the air. So they must look up, not heads down. Life is also like a volleyball match. We must look up, not heads down. To conclude our journey, I want to invite you to pray to the divinity of your religion. Feel free to read along with me. Loving God, please grant us peace of mind and calm our troubled hearts. Our souls are like a turbulent sea. We can't find our balance, so we stumble and worry constantly. Please give us the strength and clarity of mind to find our purpose and walk the path you've laid for us. Let's be the peace to bring peace to your people. Thank you.